Let's get it popping. Happy Saturday. AfricanInsider.com. This follows on now from one of the questions that I'd asked this week around the Zamas, the illegal miners in Stilfontein West province that have not come out. And my question was, I wonder if these human rights people are going to come up and ask about, but what's going to happen? Because Ukumbutso and the president was speaking about how we're not going to help criminals. We're not going to help criminals. We're going to smoke them out. So I want to read this article for you guys just to follow up on that point from my side. Sure. What happened to Ubuntu? Zille calls for compassion and Stilfontein Zama crisis. DA Federal Chair Helen Zille has urged the government to show Ubuntu and empathy toward thousands of illegal miners known as Zamas trapped or voluntarily staying underground in Stilfontein in the northwest. These miners are reportedly without food and water, and authorities have sealed the mine entrances to prevent supplies from reaching them, intending to force the miners out for arrest. Zille argued that while the miners broke the law, they should not be left to suffer and suggested balancing enforcement with compassion. Come on, the ministers talk about human beings here. People facing a perilous, life-threatening calamity must be rescued. Arrest and prosecute them for breaking the law, but don't leave them to perish in horrific circumstances. What happened to Ubuntu? Helen Zille asked. And this was one of the things I was saying, right? Because when we speak about illegal foreigners, undocumented immigrants, and deporting them, when we speak about people that are living in buildings, hijacked buildings, when we speak about a lot of these so-called atrocities, normally the United Nations and human rights activists come in to be like, but we have to consider the human rights. And you're like, but these people are breaking laws. So I was just waiting to hear if something similar is going to happen here, because if some of these miners end up dying from starvation, end up dying from thirst, dehydration, South Africa will need to answer. Yes, they are criminals, but if you had the means to get them out of the ground and arrest them, and you didn't do it, that becomes a human rights violation. Understanding that, yes, they're not doing the right thing, they're breaking the laws. You cannot, by the Constitution, by human rights laws, So this is going to be very, very interesting to note. She also raised questions about what motivates the miners' actions, suggesting that understanding this could clarify their current situation. Something about the Zamas, the illegal miners, needs to be explained. Are they trapped underground, or are they there voluntarily? If the latter, I can understand why the police do not want to face death by going down to arrest them. If the Zamas have a choice to exit, it is theirs to make, she said. Her comments counter Minister Kumbutso Chabeni's firm stance, who in a recent statement reiterated that the government would not assist the miners, framing them as criminals to be smoked out. Honestly, we're not sending help to criminals. We're going to smoke them out. They will come out, Chabeni said, in comments that drew widespread criticism. This hardline position aligns with Operation Vala Umkoti, a government crackdown on illegal mining since 2023 that has resulted in over 13,000 arrests nationwide, according to reports. However, the operation has also left many miners underground without basic needs, prompting debates on the need for a more humane approach towards illegal mining. AfricanInsider.com. I think as it stands currently, we've got over 1,100 miners, illegal miners, that have been arrested. And in my past video this week, my question was around why are we not having the conversation around legalizing artisanal mining? The fact that I believe a lot of these illegal miners are selling to the big mines. One of the questions being, why are the big mines not being held to account for not rehabilitating or properly some of these mines? We've got abandoned mines in South Africa, and those become some of the questions that are not being asked. The Zamas are underground. They need to come out. They need to be arrested. Those that are undocumented need to be deported to the country of their origin, and their country need to be held to account in why they are struggling to contain their people and how their people are coming here. We need to have all those conversations. It's a crime. It's wrong. And some of them commit other crimes, theft, rape, murder, and other heinous crimes in the communities they operate in. But we need to go deeper. Who are these guys supplying? Where are these commodities ending up? What is the responsibilities of big miners? What is the government doing? What are politicians? How are politicians involved? The Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe. What is his opinion on this? Because this becomes part of his jurisdiction and part of his work as well. Very important article. I follow on dailymaverick.co.za, one of the more trending topics lately. Ramaphosa orders immediate closure of all Spaza shops linked to child deaths as food poisoning cases grow. Written by Lerato Mutsila on the 15th of November. Why, Manji, the article is closed. Wow. It's making my life difficult. Sorry, I just want to sign in here. Ugh. Kill me now. Kill me now. To fucking log in with a password. Because I'm going to have to go to another address. I literally read this article in the morning, and now it's telling me about I have to wait for an email to come in. The paywalls and the things. Okay, it's taking forever. I'm going to have to find another article. Let's see here. Bastard. Okay. Ramaphosa orders immediate closure of all Spaza shops linked to child deaths as food poisoning cases grow. Written by Lerato Mutsila on the 15th of November, 2024. The National Informal Traders Alliance says President Cyril Ramaphosa's plan to register all Spaza shops in South Africa in 21 days is too ambitious, given the number of Spaza shops nationwide. There are over 1,000 Spaza shops in Soweto alone. The rest of the country has even more. It's not going to be easy. Many Spaza shops are operating in residential areas, and they are not being monitored by health inspectors. It's going to be a huge task to eliminate what is currently the status quo. These were the words of National Informal Traders Alliance of South Africa, NITASA chairperson Rashida Müller, in response to President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement of interventions the government plans to undertake as the nation has been inundated with deadly food poisoning incidents linked to Spaza shops. Ramaphosa addressed the nation on Friday, that was yesterday, the 15th of November, outlining the ambitious interventions. Chief among them include the immediate closure of Spaza shops linked to the death of children and the re-registration of all Spaza shops within 21 days. Unregistered shops that do not meet health standards will be closed after 21 days. The president's address to the nation comes as food poisoning cases grow in all provinces. Ramaphosa confirmed that since September 2024, 890 incidents of foodborne illnesses have been reported nationwide, with Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal leading the field. In Gauteng alone, more than 441 food contamination incidents allegedly linked to Spaza shops have been recorded since the beginning of the year. The cases have resulted in 23 deaths, mostly children. Several cases have been reported in Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and the Free State. The food poisoning incidents and fatalities range from biological, poorly prepared stored or expired foods to chemical poisoning from pesticides. In October 2024, 6 children were tragically killed after allegedly consuming snacks bought from a local Spaza shop in Naledi in Soweto. Toxicology reports revealed that turbufos, a highly toxic organophosphate meant solely for agricultural use, but often illegally sold as a street pesticide, caused the deaths of the Naledi children. Let's see here. Ramaphosa said samples were taken from 84 Spaza shops during the inspection, and the test revealed that 3 Spaza shops had evidence of turbufos use. Skip some more. While NITASA chairperson Miller lamented that it took the death of 23 children to motivate government to take a strong stance on the regulation of Spaza shops, Miller also said that NITASA was willing to offer a helping hand as long as government comes to the table. I want to add here, man, this story, as tragic and as sensitive as it is, has also led to a lot of tuck shops at schools. Ordinary public schools being closed. It's led to a lot of mama that sell like amakota and other, chips and sweets outside schools, especially in the townships. It's quite sad that innocent people that are trying to feed their families, are now having to suffer and are catching straight bullets because of this issue. It's a tragic issue. But one of the knock-on effects is that, like, oh, mama, black South African mamas who are trying to feed their kids now also had to be shut down. A lot of Spaza shops, a lot of tuck shops, even within the schools, have been closed, even though they've not been found guilty of anything, because there's been this call that nothing must be sold to the kids. And what happens then, and this was one of the things I said this week, is now parents are forced to go to a U-Save, to a Pick and Pay Quality Save, to a ShopRite, to all these other more mainstream. Yes, the mainstream stores, we could argue, they meet health regulations, they are inspected, so it's in the interest of the children, it's in the interest of normal consumers. But the knock-on effect is now these other innocent South African citizens who are also just trying to make a living, who are now losing out because there are certain Spaza shops that sell expired foods that sick, certain Spaza shops that prepare the food not in a great way. Let me actually stop there as well. The number of times I've heard of food poisoning and people being sick from prepared foods at a ShopRite, at a Pick and Pay, etc., is one of the things that also needs to be discussed. This is not me defending Spaza shops. Those Spaza shops must be held to account. People must be arrested. And if, like the Zamas, there are illegal, foreigners, undocumented immigrants there, they must be deported. Their home country must pay for their travel and for damages and penalties in South Africa. But we also need to speak about how many people also get sick from some of these more mainstream stores that fall under health regulations. It happens. I mean, cases like listeriosis were not only happening in Spaza shops, they were happening in some of the more mainstream regulated stores as well. So we need to do a more thorough and more in-depth. Very important. The recent death spurred widely welcomed action from national government, with Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa gazetting a new bylaw to develop and regulate township economies. Velenkosini Hlabisa is the leader of Inkatha Freedom Party, and he becomes a minister of COGTA under the supposed Government of National Unity, the GNU. The legislation seeks to regulate township businesses owned by foreign nationals, balance the rights of business owners with consumer rights to a safe environment, and empower municipalities to set standards and support township businesses. Ramaphosa said that following a special cabinet meeting, the government will undertake the following interventions with immediate effect: get hazardous pesticides off the street. That's going to be very, very difficult to do, but where they can find them, get rid of them. Protect children from exposure to these substances. A circular will be issued by the Department of Basic Education, which will inform provincial education departments and all schools on best practice protocols for preventing and managing foodborne illnesses within the schools. The guidelines for schools on the management of supplies of foodstuffs to public schools will be reviewed and updated by the beginning of the school new year. A public education program on food safety and the identification, handling, and storage of dangerous chemicals will be launched. To prevent future outbreaks, local municipalities have been directed to address the problem of rat infestations by cleaning cities and towns and removing waste. The Alex comes into mind when they speak about amagundane, the size of dogs, these huge rats in some of these spaces where there are schools, where you go to a school and you see rats. Now, that's now no longer a Spaza shop issue. That's now no longer a mainstream retail issue. That's now the municipality, the ward councillors, is your neighborhood clean? And even the citizens themselves, ordinary South Africans who are comfortable throwing out dirt, who are comfortable dumping dirt at a certain corner and attracting these rats, these cockroaches, etc. And they're the ones that also bring some of these infestations, which some people end up needing to use pesticides and the like. And some of these pesticides being the hazardous ones, which end up making their way into the foodstuffs of people. Very, very sad. Ramaphosa added that the Department of Agriculture was in the process of reviewing and updating all relevant legislation with respect to the regulation and authorization of agricultural pesticides for use in South Africa. The Minister of Agriculture being the leader of the DA, again under the GNU, Mr. John Sianezen. Additionally, the Departments of Trade, Industry and Competition and Small Business Development will establish a joint fund of 500 million rand to support township and rural businesses. Money is going to be chout. Whether we like it or not, we know our government is corrupt in many ways. They've set up this fund. Money is probably going to be chout there. Very sad, but I hope it does end up helping a lot of local businesses as well. These funds will be used to refurbish businesses and offer non-financial support, including technical skills, regulatory compliance, and capacity building. So non-financial support is specifically where the money is going to be charged, because when these tenders go out, there are going to be people saying, no, we're going to host workshops for Spaza shop owners, for informal traders, to teach them how to run a good business, how to be clean, They're going to probably have catering there. They're going to hire venues. They're going to put up banners, etc. Maybe hire influencers. And where something should have cost 2 million, it's probably going to end up costing 10 million, and 8 million rand is going to be charged. This is how our government works. This is not something that's, but I appreciate that they are putting in this effort. I appreciate that they are trying to capacitate and upskill and educate informal businesses. I just hope that most of this money is going to go to the people it needs to go to. Not so much the service providers, but the business owners themselves. 500 million rand. Imagine if they took this 500 million rand, they found unemployed youths, especially in townships, and they said, we're going to give each of you 10,000 rand, 5,000 rand, 30,000 rand to go and stock and start your own Spaza shop from your home. You're sitting at home, you're doing nothing. You're relying on the 370 SRD grant. Here's some money for stock. Come, before we give you the money for stock, come and learn how to run a Spaza shop, how to take care of your customers, how to make sure our kids are not getting sick. But here's money. Go and start a business. This is how you're going to compete with the foreign-owned businesses. Operate from 6 in the morning to 10 at night, or maybe have shifts, etc. But sadly, I don't have faith in where this money is going to go. I do think a lot of it's going to get chowed, and I don't even think it's going to get audited, and life will go on. But at least something is being done, and we have to applaud that at the very least. Once again, South Africans are called upon to work together to overcome a great difficulty, but we are far from helpless. There is much we can do. Each of us needs to be better informed about the risks of pesticides and other dangerous products. Each of us needs to take responsibility for the safety and well-being of those around us, particularly the children of our nation. By working together, by enforcing the law, by being alert and responsible, we will be able to bring an end to these tragedies. One of the things Minister Kumbuzo in the presidency had said previously, which had really upset me, was putting the onus on South Africans to stop buying from illegal foreigners. And my whole thing is, but South Africans are just hungry. I just want to go buy bread. I just want to go buy eggs. I just want to go buy milk. I'm going to go to the nearest, cheapest place to me. It's up to the government and the people that are governing and the people that are meant to enforce the laws to ensure that there aren't illegal foreigners running these businesses, making sure that we do have borders, making sure that Home Affairs is not corrupt. So I found that very, very upsetting. With that being said, it is important that many of us begin educating ordinary South Africans on the dangers of buying from illegal foreigners. That some of these guys take this money and they send it out of the country. They do not create jobs for South Africans. One of the things I posted on my Facebook yesterday is that a cashier at a ShopRite Pick and Pay will earn anything from 3,000 to maybe 8,000 rand a month. A Spaza shop owner will make 10,000 to 20,000 or even more profit per month. South Africans need to get out of this mindset of only saying, well, we don't mind ShopRite and Pick and Pay because we'll get jobs. Create your own jobs. Open your own Spaza shop. Your mother doesn't need to catch a train and catch taxis to go and work at a Pick and Pay or a ShopRite or a Spa somewhere far away and not see her children. And most of that money goes to paying for transport. Open a Spaza shop in your home where your mom is at home, selling from home to the neighborhood, getting the neighbors to buy from your mother. And your mother gets to make profits. And as a family, you guys make money. And when your mom has to go somewhere, your sister or your brother can then work in that business. And we can create a culture of entrepreneurship for ordinary South Africans. Some of these things we really need to drive ourselves as well. Last article I'm going to read is from The Star, but more specifically from iol.co.za, written by Usiyabonga Sithole, published on the 15th of November, which was yesterday. And I want to give a huge shout out, man, to Siswamu, Princess Mtombeni. Princess Mtombeni is a nuclear activist and advocate. She runs a non-profit called Africa Nuclear, which is about awareness and pushing for African governments and African ordinary citizens to understand the importance of nuclear, not just in terms of energy, but in terms of medicine and in terms of so many technology. It's thanks to Princess Mtombeni that I had a chance to travel to Russia, sponsored by their state-owned company called Rosatom, which deals with all their nuclear technologies. Got to travel to Russia for the Russia-Africa Summit that was held last year in St. Petersburg, learning about the power of nuclear, visiting a nuclear plant, learning about how nuclear could change the lives of ordinary Africans. We also traveled to Ghana as well, where I learned about small modular reactors, these small miniature, you'd call them power. The bulk of France energy is from nuclear. And then we also got to visit Dubai last year at COP. I think it was COP 28, dealing with climate change, energy, etc. around the world. I know she's going to be traveling to COP 29 this year. And I'm hoping that when she comes back, I can have a sit down with her and follow up on some of the resolutions, on some of the work that's being done, the importance of energy, the impact of Donald Trump saying they're going to cut ties as America with the Paris agreements on climate change. They're going to invest in coal. What's South Africa's response to that? You know, Cyril Ramaphosa, Gwede Mantashe is the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. The Minister of Electricity, Josienso Sputla Ramokgopa. What does that mean for us, especially because we were given $8.5 billion, or there was a pledge of $8.5 billion for us to move away from coal to renewables. Andre de Ruyter was fired as the Eskom CEO. We've seen now load shedding disappear and being a thing of the past. What does all of that really mean? Were we dealing with sabotage? Were we dealing with mafias? Was Andre de Ruyter pushing a green agenda and closing down power stations where he shouldn't have? What is the discussion around nuclear and? But this is humongous. Princess Mtombeni went and created a video. She posted it on TikTok. She posted it on LinkedIn, where I ended up seeing it. I downloaded the video. I posted it on my LinkedIn. I posted it on my Facebook. I think, I'm not sure which other, I think I posted it on my Twitter as well, to drive awareness. She was now giving a follow-up on the $8.5 billion pledged for South Africa to move towards green energy and to decarbonize or to lower carbon emissions by the West. And she was like, these are the things. And she was right. These are the conversations we're not having. So Siyabonga Sithole and the guys at the Star saw this video, and I'd like to think it inspired this article that I'm about to read now. The importance of alternative media. The importance of Elon Musk and Twitter and X, and Elon Musk constantly saying, we are the media now. You are the media now. The article that you write, the story that you give, a lady Mihlali who exposed that Barbel restaurant, the treatment of waiters and waitresses in hospitality, which prompted investigations, which prompted fines, etc., just by making TikTok videos. The impact of other people writing pieces, the impact of podcasts, you know, people like Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh on SMWX, people like myself on The Convo Show, which used to be the panel show, and some of the voices that we had not been hearing on what's going on out there. Trump going to Joe Rogan, Kamala Harris going to Club Shay Shay, even people like Jeff Bezos, who owns media in America, speaking about the importance of listening to alternative voices. So to Princess Mtombeni, thank you so much, Siswami. To the rest of us that use alternative media, like this YouTube video now, to spread awareness, to spread education, and creating news in real time. I want to say this, and this is so important, something I've said on the Virtual Nkuko DJ Sbu. You have a cell phone. You have alternative media. You've got LinkedIn, you've got YouTube, you've got Twitter, you've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got WhatsApp. If something happens in your neighborhood, take your phone, go and interview the people there and create the news. Don't wait for the SAPC for explosion of the truck in Boksburg where people died, and the footage we got was cell phone footage. There are times when there's corruption and we see cell phones. We have voice notes become the news. By the time the mainstream reports on it, be like, but we've already sent this thing out. And for me, this is where I can maybe teach you how we can monetize. Recently, it came out that, look, and Twitter and X and Elon Musk need to step up. But someone released that for 1 million views on Twitter, on X, Americans get paid $8.5. It's tiny money. On YouTube, for 1 million views, you get 4,000 US dollars. On TikTok, you get, I think, 600 US dollars. In South Africa, we don't have that yet. And it's something Gayton McKenzie has spoken about. It's something that South African TikTokers need to raise their voice for. If anything, we need to have a campaign where South African TikTokers are making videos saying, as a South African TikTokers, we demand that TikTok South Africa, we demand that TikTok Global finds ways, because South African advertisers are paying TikTok, but this money is not being shared with South African content creators and other platforms that need to pay. Facebook as well is not doing enough for content creators to get them paid, like a YouTube, like a Twitter and X as an example. So if you're going to be creating the news, if you're going to be doing interviews and you post it on your Twitter, you post it on your YouTube, you post it on your TikTok, it would be nice for you to learn how to monetize. It would be nice for you to sell ads, which I do. On my social media platforms, people know, even on my bios, I write there, if you would like to advertise on my platform, send me a DM. There are people that are on my DMs. They advertise their books that they're launching or they're selling. They advertise their events. There was an amazing doctor in Harvard, Sitlaelo, I think her name Sarah Sitlaelo, who was interviewing an icon in South Africa, Thandiswa Mazwai, at Harvard. She advertised on my platform to say, please, can people tune in? People are advertising their businesses, and how do I teach you guys to use your platforms to make money so that we no longer rely on mainstream media platforms and we become the media, we become the news, we break the stories, etc., etc. I think that is so important, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. South Africa's numerous just energy transition jet deals have been shrouded in mystery, with little to no accountability made to the public. This has led to questions and calls for the South African government to account for the missing just energy transition jet billions. This call comes just when IOL this past week reported that Agence Française de Développement, AFD, announced that it has finalized a landmark 7.6 billion rand loan to drive South Africa's just energy transition plan, JETP. The deal, the largest ever on AFD's balance sheet, was coordinated closely with South Africa's Jet Program Management Unit and National Treasury, underscoring the intensifying partnership between France and South Africa for a socially equitable energy transition. Following the Wits University report titled, "What Happened to the Just Energy Transition Grant Funding?" MK Party parliamentarians and energy activist and commentator Princy Mtombeni have recently questioned some of the funds that have disappeared through the cracks in light of the $8.5 billion Just Energy Transition Grant to move South Africa from coal to clean green energy. The report seems to suggest that 4% of the fund was granted as grant money, while 96% were loans. Prince Mtombeni, if you go watch the video, speaks specifically about this. Of the $8.5 billion, only 4% is grants. The rest, 96%, is loans, which means South Africa will need to repay this money. America, Germany, others are like, oh, we're pledging money. But it's not a pledge, it's a loan. You're loaning us money to move away from coal, which we have in abundance. But you're loaning us so that we pay you back. Why? Why would you need to do that? What is even worse, of these grants, the 4%, 24% is going to South African entities, 76% went to foreign entities from donor countries like Germany, the USA, etc. We'll give you grants, but 76% of that money is actually going to come back to us. Similar thing might happen with the loans. Here's a loan for solar. Here's a loan for wind energy. Here's a loan for hydro. Here's a loan for car power ship and these ship type of energy things. But these loans must be used to buy our products, our solar panels, get contracts with our ship energy companies, get turbines and those things from us. But then you must pay us back for that loan. And I've said before, many people have said before that, number one, we don't trust Cyril Ramaphosa as the president of South Africa. We know that he loves money. We know that he's a billionaire. We know that him and his brother-in-law, Patrice Motsepe, and others are standing to benefit from independent power producer agreements, which it seems Andre Tereta was driving as the CEO of Eskom at the time. And we will not be surprised if it was like, here's 8.5 billion. Ramaphosa signs, they clap hands, they go to these conferences around the world. And then you realize that this money is going to go back to the same countries, but all Ramaphosa and his families and his business associates are going to benefit in some way because they'll have the contracts, they'll be making friends over there, etc., etc. And it becomes a huge fuck up as per usual. Furthermore, the report seems to suggest that at least $5.2 billion was used before South Africa's public consultations, while very little of it was used to build renewable infrastructure. Instead, $1.2 billion went to foreign consultants, while $1.5 billion went to private sector investments, and only $453 million went to skills development, as well as a British High Commission employee secondment to the Presidential Climate Commission. These are scandals. These are things that we're meant to be investigating. Who will investigate? We're going to ask the same government to investigate. We're going to ask the same courts that are captured that we've seen with the Zondo Commission, we've seen with Phala Phala, we've seen with even the Steinhoff scandals, that the courts are captured. So it's for us to break the news and for us to maybe get international pressure from elsewhere. If it means we're getting pressure from the BRICS nations to ask what the hell is going on, Cyril Ramaphosa, what the hell is going on, Gwede Mantashe, what the hell is going on, Josienso Ramokgopa, what's going on? Let's have these conversations. Where's this money gone? Can you account? Can we get this money back? Can heads roll? Can people be fired? Because you guys are not working in the best interests of ordinary South African citizens. $5.2 billion was used before South Africa was consulted on this $8.5 billion pledge. So they'd already approved this thing and the work had started before they actually got approval. That's a violation of some type of governance where the questions need to be asked. $1.5 billion, $1.2 billion went to foreign consultants. Consulting, your McKinseys and the like. We're going to have to repay these loans where the money is being paid to foreign consultants. 1.5 billion to private sector investments. Why are you giving money to banks to set up a green fund, Net Bank? Why? They've got their own money. Why is South Africa and the government and the state going to have to pay back loans for money that's been given to the private sector? Why? Why can Nedbank, Absa, Standard Bank, they can go sign their own deals? Why must it involve the South African government? Why must it involve tax money? We need to ask these questions. 453 million rand went to skills development, as well as one employee from the British High Commission to go to a presidential climate commission. That's disgusting. A recent report by researchers from WITS, Katrina Lemon-Gruber, Imran Valodia, Julia Taylor, and Sonia Palazzi reveals that the $8.5 billion jet money which was acquired by President Cyril Ramaphosa at the COP26 in Glasgow in 2021 has not been properly accounted for. The total amount accounted for in the grants register looks like 10 billion, just over 10 billion rand. Just more than 10 billion rand. This covers more than the original 4% stipulated in the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan. 329 million US dollars, which is 6.3 billion rand at the current exchange rate. This is presumably due to the addition of funds from the new partners. However, this too is unclear. There's a concern that the register may therefore include projects that were already happening anyway, representing funding that is neither new nor additional, a problem within climate finance more broadly, the researchers say in their report. Prince Mtombeni, whose analysis of this report has caught media attention, says the lack of accountability to the funds must not be allowed to go unchallenged. Let's see here, sorry. Perhaps most troubling is almost no funding is dedicated to civil society groups and workers' unions, as only 0.4% of the funds went to these groups. 0.4%. There's specifically no money to help workers in the coal sectors to provide social protection, she said. Coal sectors. I think they were quoting this from the subtitles on the video. Coal sectors to provide social protection. So workers in coal who are being asked to leave the coal plants because we're going green, there's no funding that is being put aside for them. What's going to happen to these guys? Later on, if some of these guys end up becoming Zama, later on, if some of these guys end up opening Spaza shops, which are not run properly and get our children sick, we're going to pretend to not understand where this problem started from. This deal was also endorsed by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who announced in 2021 that South Africa has secured a commitment of 130 billion rand of highly concessional climate financing from developed countries and the European Union to help South Africa transition away from coal to cleaner forms of energy, after being asked by EFF leader Julius Malema during an oral session in the National Assembly in November 2021. By the way, Donald Trump says they're going to be building power plants. I understand Bill Gates has invested and others in America. They're going to be building nuclear plants. Germany continues to import our high quality coal, which gets run through Richards Bay, which is currently being run by Grindrod, linked to Johann Rupert's Remgro. Germany is still importing our coal. Other countries in Europe are still importing our coal. France is struggling, of course, with West Africa, Burkina Faso and the likes, who are saying they don't want to send uranium to France anymore unless they buy it at market price. They've been buying it at a steal and exploiting the people of West Africa, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, Mali, and others there. I think Gabon as well. In terms of the political declaration, the US, the UK, Germany, France, and the EU have offered, and I wish to underline that this initial amount of 8.5 billion US dollars, which is the equivalent to around 131 billion rand, has been offered to support South Africa's just transition efforts. South Africa doesn't need that. We don't need to be accelerating the transition. Yes, move from dirty fossil fuels that are polluting the environment, but we've got so much coal, good quality coal. We need to industrialize South Africa. But the West, which doesn't want us to industrialize, doesn't want us to build and beneficiate and mine our own shit, they don't want us to do this. And that's why for South Africa and for people that don't understand why we have issues with the DA and others calling out, that's why we need these partnerships with BRICS nations, China, India, Russia, etc., because they want to help us industrialize South Africa and the African continent, where the West doesn't want. They don't want us to export our gold, our copper, our platinum, our cobalt, our coltan at market price. They want to exploit us, and we're tired. And we need the type of leaders, politicians that are not going to be in the pockets of the West, that are going to be in the pockets of serving ordinary South African and African citizens as well. The support will take the form of various financial instruments ranging from grants to concessional loans at a lower interest rate. This was Cyril Ramaphosa. This funding will be mobilized over the next 3 to 5 years with a view to longer term engagement. Again, we find out now only 4% of this is grants. When you say it's a mix of grants and loans, 96% of it is loans. Of that money, the bulk of it is going to end up back in the hands of the West. In 2021, Economic Freedom Fighters EFF leader Julius Malema had asked the president to provide the details of the terms and conditions of the 131 billion rand loan that was announced by the President of the United States of America at the Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP26. The President said the offer by developed countries was an initial commitment which may increase as discussions progress and further funds are identified. Attempts to get comment from Eskom, Treasury and the Department of Energy and Minerals were unsuccessful at the time of going to print, but they do need to answer. Eskom needs to answer. Treasury needs to answer. The Department of Energy and Minerals, that's Gwede Mantashe, needs to answer. President Cyril Ramaphosa needs to answer. And we need to know who in South Africa is going to be benefiting from this stuff. Who, foreign consultants, foreign countries, where are we getting that stuff from? It's important. Even now we're speaking about e-toll, which has been shut down. Who are we paying? Who in South Africa, these BEE consortiums, has benefited, has become rich, while South Africans are not aware of these things? It's important. The ordinary citizen may not know, may not care. It's okay. We don't expect them to. They're undereducated because our education departments, our schools are shit. But for those of us who are a bit more smarter, a bit more researched, a bit more nuanced and understanding, we need to get louder. People like myself, people like Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, people like Zimasa Mustafa Vabaza, people like Dan Corder, people like DJ Sbu, the team at Podcast and Chill, in particular, Saul Penduga does some of this research. People like Princess Mtombeni as an activist. I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole lot of other people. We need to get more vocal and we must demand answers. And some of the GNU partners, whether it's the IFP, the DA, whether it's the PA under Gates and McKenzie, they must ask these important questions. Some of the other smaller parties, Vuyo Zungula's ATM, African Transformation Movement, Musi Maimani's BOSA, Build One South Africa, Herman Mashaba's Action SA. These are the questions we need to ask those of us who deem ourselves activist leaders, who claim that we care about South Africa and South Africans. If we're going to be speaking about Spaza shops that are foreign owned, if we're going to be speaking about illegal foreigner Zamas, over registered local South African artisanal miners, over registered local South African Spaza shop owners, then we also need to ask questions about the big mines in this country and their BEE partners. We need to ask questions about energy and climate change and these so-called loans that are coming to enrich certain BEE partners. We need to ask about independent power producers and those contracts and where the money is going. Jeff Khadebe, I believe to this day, still not released that list. There was still a lot of mystery around the car power ship deal from Turkey. Tokyo Sehwale's family was involved somewhere there. All of those things. Gwede Mantashe doesn't answer some of these questions. He just cracks jokes. We need to ask. We need to hold them to account. And where possible, some of us that can get in, whether Ronaldo Gous or Roman Cabinet, we must get into government. We must investigate these things. And we must not be co-opted and captured into not holding people to account. We need to make sure that South Africans are prioritized, Africans are prioritized, and we're not just puppets for the West and Western agendas, and we're not puppets for BRICS and BRICS agendas as well. As a parting shot, man, I've been humbled very much by the impact that my work has done online. I've been humbled by the impact by so many other content creators online, the impact of their work. There are people that see us somewhere. Some of them we bash, we attack. I bash and I attack Ramaphosa and the ANC. I bash and attack the DA, Helen Zeller, John Steenhuisen. I bash and attack certain political parties that I think are be convenient at certain times. I've bashed the IFP, I've bashed so many others. But I appreciate that some of these people see us. I've had leaders of the IFP on my platforms. Action SA, the Patriotic Alliance, BOSA, OM, by the way, OM as well, the Organic Humanity Movement, the ATM, and so many others. I've had business people on my platforms, and we need to do more. But when we get seen, people like Princess Mtombeni is someone that saw me and said, Pen, I believe in your voice. I believe you're not captured. I believe you're independent. I believe you care about South Africans and Africans. So I'd like you to travel with me on some of these journeys to see what goes on there. And I've met amazing people, some of the nuclear engineers and scientists along the way, some of the business people that are involved. When I was in Russia, I got to see President Ramaphosa was there. I got to see and meet President Emerson Mnangagwa from Zimbabwe and so many others. People like Rob Hersoff have seen me. However, people criticize my relationship with him and the legacies of his family, he sees me. Rob has said, Pen, I want to get to know you. I'd like you to meet some people. I've met important business people and other influential people in society thanks to Rob Hersoff seeing me. People like Kulufelo Maponya, who comes from the very powerful and famous Maponya family of industrialists and retail gurus in South Africa. He saw me. Kulufelo Maponya has introduced me to so many entrepreneurs and business people in South Africa, black, white, and other. People like Ukandani Msibi of 360 and the work that he's done. He's sitting with me, educating me on the business world, etc. People like Gaten McKenzie, who I've known for a while, even before social media, speaking about the books that he's written and I've written, the work that he's done when he still had Rivonia on deck, when they were still running ZAR with Kenny Unene, that he still sees me today. People like Herman Mashaba. Some of the names may be, failing me now. Ronnie McKenzie, inviting me on important WhatsApp platforms where I got to speak and interact with so many political and business heavyweights, having conversations on the phone for 30 minutes to an hour with Dr. Arun Mutwaledi, speaking to ex-minister Ayanda Dlodlo, who's currently based overseas, but I think she was the Minister of Security at some point, and the great relationship that I built with her. It's because of online. I wasn't writing for some mainstream newspaper, some magazine. I wasn't a news reader or an anchor on SABC or ENCA or Newsroom Africa or any other platform. I'm just a guy with a voice that uses his phone, that uses Facebook, that uses YouTube, that uses Twitter, that uses TikTok. And there are people that see us, influential business people, politicians, and others. Never mind the hundreds of business people that are unknown, that have reached out to me, that have contributed to me, that have said, keep going. Pen if you need support, pen if you need whatever. I'm just, I have a bit of pride and I struggle with taking money from people, but there are people that have opened their homes, people that have opened their wallets. If you ever need anything, Pen, holler, let us know. These are men, these are women that own businesses. I've sat with some of them on some of the platforms. They big business people, make tens of millions of rands a year. Some of them make hundreds of millions of rands a year. Some make billions a year. And these people sit with me even when I criticize them. Even when I criticize some of these people, or to Zama, about Rob Hersoff themselves, they still sit with me and we have respect for each other and we speak, because for the most part, outside of making money or having power, we want South Africa to work. And recently I got invited by Minister Gaten McKenzie from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture to travel with him as part of his delegate to Switzerland. Unfortunately, because of logistics and admin, some of the compliance and things I needed to get right with my Schengen visa, it was just late, unfortunately. But he's going to be traveling with a delegation to Europe, to Switzerland, to go and meet with various stakeholders there, and invited me to be there. Gayton is my people know I get along with Gayton. I'm a huge fan of Gayton outside of politics. I've said the same about Jacob Zuma. I'm a huge fan of Gayton Zuma outside of politics. Same thing with Tutuzane Zuma and so many others. I'm fans of these people. I like them. I'm biased, but I am open about it. But I still hold them to account. I'm still one of the people that if I see Gayton McKenzie doing something wrong, I'll be like, no, but gee, what's going on here? Let the people know. And we do the same with many other political leaders to be like, the people want to know. We need a different type of leadership. But Gayton sees me. Gayton sees the importance of podcasts. He sees the importance of alternative media. There are politicians, ANC, EFF, MK, that see the importance of podcasts, and they'll go on SMWX. They'll sit with Dan Corder. They'll invite Zimasa Vabaza as part of delegates around the world. That's the work that we're trying to do, where people are just like, but you guys just make more noise on social media. We don't. We try to make an impact in our own little way. And for people that see us, we appreciate you. If ANC politicians want to invite us to things, we'll show up. If EFF politicians want to invite us to things, we'll show up. DA politicians will show up. We will criticize you. We will be harsh. We will be biased. Some will be biased towards you, a Ronaldo Gous, a Roman Kabanak. Maybe a Season Pofu Walsh will be more sympathetic to an MK and EFF. I'll be more sympathetic to maybe a Jacob Zuma, a Tutuzane Zuma, and a Gayton McKenzie. A Dan Corder might be more sympathetic to left-leaning agendas, progressive agendas. Someone else might be right-leaning. Maybe the guys at AfriForum, your Ernst van Sail, your Ernst Roots, might be more conservative. Ernst Roots is at Solidarity, and will be biased. But we need all these biased voices to come together and say, I'm for these people. I'm for white Afrikaans people and the minorities. I'm AfriForum, I'm Solidarity. That's what I stand for. Come in and say your piece and let us know you're biased. I'll come in as Andile Mngxitama of MK now, used to be of Black Land First, Black First Land First, BLF. Before, Andile Mngxitama must come in and say I'm biased towards a pro-Black Pan-Africanist agenda. Vuyo Zungul of ATM must come in and say I'm biased. The PAC must be like, we're biased towards Black agendas. The DA and John Steenhuisen must come in and say we're biased towards Ukraine. We're biased towards Israel. The ANC and Fikile Mbalula must come and say we're biased towards Palestine. We're biased towards Russia. And the podcasters must come in and be honest about where they stand. And then when you guys sit with Russia, with China, with India, with America, when you sit with Canada, when you sit with England, when you sit with France, know where you stand and be like, look, can we have these conversations? Because Ramaphosa is one man. We can go out there and we can create our own relationships. We don't need politicians and government and big business people to be the only one. We can go out and meet with people and say, we'd like your support. We'd like you to give us funding from China. We'd like you to give us funding from Russia. We'd like funding from Pakistan. We'd like funding from Argentina. As young people in South Africa, to do activist work. To be like, we not only want to rely on government and big business to drive our agendas. And if we're trying to bring money in and they block it, and if we're trying to get people from outside, from Dubai and the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, to come in and share skills and bring in money and for tourism, and our government is blocking it, we will call them out. We've got the internet today, and many of us have got friends that are spread all across the world. We can send messages to South Africans in Brazil, in America, in Ireland, in Portugal, in China, in Japan. We've got South Africans across the world who can go out there and tell stories if ever the GNU of the ANC, the DA and others, if ever they become oppressive. That's why we'll speak out against COVID. That's why we'll speak out against Phala. That's why we'll speak a different voice around Zamas and artisanal mining. Why we'll have a different view around the gold mafia documentary of Al Jazeera. Why I'll bring on Rutendo Matinyarare, Gerald Mwandiyambira, Joshua Maponga, and any other Zimbabwean that wants to speak. Why I want to sit with people from Botswana. I want to speak with people from Namibia, from Eswatini, from Lesotho, and have these conversations because we are the media now. We are the news now. We are the political leaders today. We are the business people today, no matter how small our platforms may be. You can be making 10,000 Rand, but if there's a million of us making 10,000 Rand each, we now start shifting the weight. We now start capturing politicians. Now, the ANC guys, the DA guys, the EFF guys, the MK guys, the PA, Action SA, the Freedom Front guys need to come and speak to us. need to come and sit on our platforms because we've got reach, we've got influence, we've got networks of politicians, of business people, not just in South Africa, but abroad as well. You can try shut me down here, but I don't need Patrice Motsepe. I don't need Johan Rupert. I don't need whoever. I know business people in other countries and they have influence. It's part of the conversation around the Guptas. It's part of the conversations around business people in other parts of the world. To be like, we're not going to rely on you guys if you have this weird agenda to serve certain people at the expense of South Africans. We'll bring other business people. We'll bring other relationships, trade relationships if you want to threaten us. And we're going to develop South Africa into something special for the future. And we'll do the rest for the African continent. And we'll be that generation that started pushing the work and taking the baton from our forefathers, our ancestors. Abo Steve Biko, Abo Tembisile, Martin Tembisile, Krisani, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Jomo Kenyatta, and so many others. The work that people like Paul Kagame is doing. The work that so many other leaders, Muammar Gaddafi, may he rest in peace, the amazing work that he was doing, pushing for a united Africa. We are here. We are trying. We're willing to listen, and we will push. But yeah, I just want to thank, man, all the people that I've mentioned already. And in closing, like I want to say, I just want to thank Minister Gayton McKenzie for seeing me and for trying to get me to be a part of his delegation. I'm hoping to join him at some point as part of media, because we go there and not only are we going to report like the news, we're also fucking biased and we're opinionated. We'll tell you in real time what we're seeing there. We're going to build our own relationships with the people there. We're not there like some of these other politicians to go shopping, to just be looking pretty and eating food and living it up in hotels. We're there to build relationships. We're there to make friends in Accra. We're there to make friends in Nairobi. We're there to make friends in, I'm trying to think of, what's this place in the DRC that I'd love to, Kinshasa. Is it Kinshasa? Maybe, in Lagos. We're going to actually do the real work and be real ambassadors of developing this country and this continent for the better. And like Donald Trump, who I'm a supporter of, if we're sitting with America, if we're sitting with Germany, if we're sitting with the United Kingdom, if we're sitting with China, with India, with Russia, with France and others, when we have these conversations, we need to ask them, how will this benefit ordinary South Africans and Africans? Yes, you might tell me I'm going to become rich with my family, I'll become a billionaire, and I'll live in a fancy house, sure. But how will this benefit ordinary South Africans and Africans? And if you're going to be taking more from us than we're getting from you, it's not a fair deal. And maybe we're going to look for other potential partners. If America's going to be arrogant, we're going to ask China. If China's being arrogant, we're going to look to Brazil. Brazil is arrogant, we're going to speak to the Middle East. But somewhere, someone must give us a better deal. And we must sit with these deals and decide on who's best for us. And let them all know that, guys, we're not just going to be held. You can't just give $1 billion to our president. You can't just give $1 billion to the richest black man or to Johan Rupert or to the Oppenheimer family. You're going to have to do more, because those guys themselves, we demand that they sit with us. Johan Rupert must sit with us. Nikki Oppenheimer must sit with us. Patrice Motsepe must sit with us. They must also humble themselves like certain politicians and realize that it's not only about mainstream media. We're here. We're going to be the next generation. And if you don't take us seriously, it's okay. Other people are going to take us seriously. And by the time Mac G is sitting with Errol Musk, by the time one of our other podcasters is sitting with Joe Rogan, by the time Caesar Mpofu Walsh may be sitting with a president of China, it might be too late. And by the time you want to sit with us and pretend like you're friends, you're going to be like, but you don't respect us. We had to leave South Africa first to be seen by other people before you took us seriously. Like the Antwoord. It's wrong. See us. Because if you don't see us now, we will not see you tomorrow. And we're going to create our own relationships, business, political. And if ever there's a change of the guard, you're going to get washed out. And you're going to see some of the work that's done similar to the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. Some of the work that has been done by people like Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. If there's a changing of the guard, some of the work that was done like in Angola with the freezing of the assets of Isabel dos Santos. We're not dumb. We're fucking aware of what's going on. And if you don't see us today, we will not see you tomorrow. And to the people that are seeing us today, In the same way we had allies during apartheid in Russia, in Palestine, in other countries, those that see us today, we will see you tomorrow. And you will become our friends and allies tomorrow, and we will protect and defend you as far as we can, as long as the relations are good and we are not harming humanity. Penuel the Black Pen, bit of heavy topics on a Saturday, but I hope go and have a great and blessed day, and we'll catch up again soon. Cheers.